Well, thank you, Vince, for that very generous introduction. Well, good afternoon, everybody. It's a good afternoon, fellow global business enthusiasts, because I've been really impressed by the amount of global fluency that I found in my conversations today. You know, our Secretary of Commerce, Penny Pritzker, has been using the term global fluency. Her view is that the more comfortable you are crossing borders, selling in other places, the more you'll end up selling. So there's a concept of some places, some people having that comfort in going across borders, doing business across borders. And I saw a lot of that today. It's a real pleasure, in fact, truly an inspiration to be here today among such an enthusiastic group of experts and business people. On behalf of the US Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration, ITA for short, I would like to thank Governor Herbert and his staff for their coordination and execution of today's forum and for their wonderful hospitality. In fact, what a wonderful treat we had for lunch. As head of the International Trade Administration's Global Trade Promotion Policy Network, I am pleased to be in a state, Utah, that from 2009 to 2013 increased its exports a staggering 55.9%. Just 2 weeks ago, we released a study on US metro area exports in 2013. 3 of Utah's designated metro areas, Logan, Provo-Urem, and Ogden-Clearfield, logged record growth year over year. And Utah is increasingly being recognized as a destination for foreign firms to locate their business. According to our most recent data, nearly 33,000 Utah workers are employed in US subsidiaries of foreign firms located in the state. And when the data is updated later this year, we expect that the number will increase substantially. Clearly, something special is happening here in the shadows of the Wasatch Range. I would like to use my time today to highlight 3 initiatives designed to help complement your efforts as you endeavor to compete and succeed globally. First, an initiative that is helping to reinvigorate US exports and attract foreign direct investment. We call this NEI, National Export Initiative, NEI Next. Second, an initiative that is actively connecting US small and medium enterprises to Latin American markets. We call this Look South. And third, an initiative that is helping US business and industry leverage opportunities in sub-Saharan Africa. And this we call Doing Business in Africa, DBIA in short. So let me commence by saying that over the last 4 years, US gains in the area of exports have not only been promising, they've actually been historic. Example, since 2009, the number of jobs supported by exports has increased by 1.6 million, bringing us to a total of over 11.3 million export-supported jobs. That is the highest figure in 20 years. And we've also had 4 straight record-breaking years of exports, leading to last year's record of $2.3 trillion in export sales. So in this context, let me talk about the US Department of Commerce's contribution to this reinvigoration of US trade. First, as I mentioned, the National Export Initiative launched by the President in 2010. This program is just as ambitious as it is unprecedented. NEI is the first ever whole-of-government initiative dedicated to boosting exports. The idea is simple: marshal the combined resources of the administration to help US companies enter into and expand in the global marketplace. Under NEI, we've offered business counseling to more than 16,000 US companies, coordinated 135 trade missions to 55 countries, and recruited 38,000 foreign buyers to visit US trade shows. Secretary Pritzker wanted to build on those gains, so she launched NEI Next with our fellow trade agencies and the White House. This is a dedicated strategy to help more US firms directly tap into global markets, specifically by helping companies and entrepreneurs understand the importance of trade and investment, and by making it easier for them to get involved. We would like to help by providing valuable market information, expanding access to financing, and working hand in hand with state and local export programs. Clearly, the NEI and now NEI Next are enabling US businesses to tap into markets around the world. A corollary to global engagement through export expansion is the notion of attracting foreign investment and capital to our shores. So do you know that US subsidiaries of foreign-owned firms account for 20% of all US goods exported? As I mentioned, in 2011, about 33,000 Utah workers were employed by foreign-owned companies, with leading sources of foreign investment in the state coming from the UK, Sweden, France, and Switzerland. These are real jobs for real families, having the net effect of increasing the economic pie here in Utah. Since 2011, through our Select USA program, the US Department of Commerce has embarked on a robust effort to underscore the United States as a world-class location for foreign investment. Working across the US government and in partnership with states and regions to attract, retain, expand, and reshore business investment in the United States, Select USA's mission is to promote and help maintain the United States as the leading destination for business investment in order to create high-quality jobs, boost economic growth, and enhance US competitiveness. Select USA program services include information assistance, investment advocacy, ombudsman services, as well as counseling, information, and promotional support for economic development organizations. We recently announced the Select USA 2015 Investment Summit, which will be held near Washington, D.C. on March 23rd and 24th, 2015. This high-profile summit will connect businesses and investors from around the world with economic development organizations and provide unique networking opportunities. I encourage any of you interested in investment-related activities to consider Select USA as a key part of your toolkit. I would like to move on to the other two key initiatives that I mentioned. The first, aptly named Look South, is designed to serve as a resource and catalyst for you as you chart a course of expansion into Latin America and the Caribbean. Look South, which launched just this past January, is a coordinated federal government effort to boost exports to 11 Latin American free trade agreement partner markets. Before the mid-90s, the US had only one FTA, and that was the one we enjoy with Israel. That number has risen to 20 countries between 1994 and 2012. Of these 20 FTA partner countries, 11 of them are in Latin America, and US free trade is driven more by this region than by any other in the world. These countries share a strong commitment to market liberalization, plus a growing middle class, and have diversified industrialization, which in turn is fueling healthy economic growth and tremendous opportunities for US companies. In fact, US exports to these markets are growing at twice the rate of US exports to the rest of the world. 1/5 of our exports were purchased by our 11 Latin American FTA partner markets last year. And here in Utah, it's clear that many companies realize the great proposition of looking south. Over the last 5 years, Utah exports to the Caribbean have grown by 25%. Exports to South America have grown by 56%, and exports to Central America are up by an impressive 72%. Look South is essential to our efforts to helping the US achieve and exceed its export potential. While we have reinvigorated exports, there is plenty of headroom, plenty of room for improvement. The entire export force of our country is carried by only 1% of US companies, and this was mentioned today. The majority of these are small and medium-sized enterprises. And of that 1%, the majority, 58%, send their goods only to one market, usually Canada or Mexico. Look South's value is in the unique resources that ITA can provide to US businesses in general and US SMEs in particular. All of us here today understand the challenges SMEs face relative to larger firms when it comes to investing in global markets. SMEs are typically not as well capitalized as larger businesses, so they are less willing and less able to withstand early losses to achieve long-term gains. They're not as equipped to access market intelligence or to advocate for themselves in resolving disputes. And that's where the US Commercial Service comes in to help. As a result, the knowledge needed and the trust threshold for SMEs in global markets is generally higher than for larger firms. So I'd like to highlight two of the unique resources that will directly aid our SMEs and connect those businesses with our Latin American free trade partners. The first is our global network of experts. Located in more than 100 cities in the US and more than 70 countries around the world, including 13 countries in the Latin American region, our team enables US SMEs to invest in the way larger firms can. This sets us apart from any other agency in the federal government. I'm specifically referring to our domestic-based US Export Assistance Centers and our globally based US Commercial Service offices attached to our embassy and consular network. This network is equipped to help US SMEs access new markets through counseling and business strategy, identify and connect with their next international customer, and through our trade compliance efforts, help SMEs enforce their rights in foreign markets. And let me repeat that no other agency in the federal government does what we do. In fact, the global market reach that we are talking about, not just in the Americas but throughout the world, is comparable only to the global diplomatic reach of the US State Department. We have representatives from our Utah US Export Assistance Center here today. Many of you know David Fiskus, who's sitting right up here. I strongly encourage you to connect with him. He's supported by Shelby Peterson, who joined him a year ago. The second resource besides our network is market intelligence. Perhaps the greatest element of Look South is that it makes it significantly easier for companies to access industry-specific market intelligence. We believe this is especially helpful to US SMEs who may not have either the in-house resources or the capital to outsource the acquisition of such information. So we have a website on export.gov. If you go to export.gov/looksouth, please go there and you can utilize our best prospect service. This will allow you to access the various market snapshots that we have across 28 industry sectors, ranging from automotive parts to medical equipment, renewable energy, travel and tourism. So there's a wealth of information available on exports.gov/looksouth. The third initiative I want to share with you today is Doing Business in Africa, our DBIA campaign. This was launched in November 2012 to underscore the US government's commitment to strengthening our commercial relationship with the continent of Africa, a diverse region that offers substantial trade and investment opportunities across national and regional markets. With a 5.4% growth rate predicted for 2014, Africa is outpacing global growth. US goods and services exports to Africa reached a record high of $50 billion in 2013, up 40% since 2009. And those exports supported 250,000 US jobs. But think about it. It's 50 billion. It's been good growth, but it's 50 billion for a whole continent. There's huge upside there in Africa. And where do Utah exports fall in this mix? Well, if you thought your export growth to Latin America was impressive, your export growth to sub-Saharan Africa has been just super impressive. It grew by a whopping 145% over the last 5 years. The DBIA campaign encourages US commercial engagement in Africa by harnessing the resources of the US government to assist businesses in identifying and seizing opportunities and to engage with members of the African diaspora, which are a great asset here in the United States. So DBIA has 4 main objectives. 1, connect American businesses with African partners. 2, support existing and new American investment in Africa. 3, expand access for American businesses to finance their exports to Africa. And 4, reduce barriers to trade and investment in Africa. So many of you have likely read about the US-Africa Business Forum that President Obama hosted last month. During those proceedings, he announced $7 billion in new financing to promote US exports to and investments in Africa under the DBIA campaign. US companies announced new deals in clean energy, aviation, banking, and construction worth more than $14 billion. in addition to 12 billion in new commitments from private sector partners, the World Bank, and the government of Sweden to support the President's Power Africa initiative. Taken together, these new commitments amount to more than $33 billion, supporting economic growth across Africa and tens of thousands of US jobs. What's more, my agency has committed to doubling its presence in sub-Saharan Africa by opening new offices in Angola, Tanzania, Ethiopia, and Mozambique, while expanding its operations in Ghana and re-establishing a position in the African Development Bank. What does this mean for your company's bottom line as you look at this vast and rich spectrum of opportunity? For one, the US Department of Commerce recently launched a one-stop shop website, trade.gov/DBIA, to offer American businesses and entrepreneurs convenient, instant access to critical African market information, financing tools, and other information. So please do visit the site. It's called trade.gov/DBIA. To celebrate the second anniversary of our DBIA campaign, the US Department of Commerce will host a Discover Sub-Saharan Africa conference in Atlanta in November 4th to 6th, 2014. This two-day business conference has been designed for US executives who want to explore new export market development strategies in the dynamic and emerging markets of sub-Saharan Africa. This would present a unique opportunity for US business people to interact with and hear directly from US commercial diplomats posted at US embassies throughout sub-Saharan Africa and international business leaders from a variety of industry sectors. In closing, I sincerely hope that you take the insight and inspiration that's been shared from the stage today and put it to work in building your global market share. We in the Commerce Department are certainly committed to helping US businesses identify opportunities in these incredible markets and to providing the service that you need to succeed. So whether it's contacting your local US Export Assistance Center, signing up with a trade mission, or reviewing best prospects in your industry, every company here today can take the right steps right now to grow their business globally. One thing I must note is that it has always struck me that the business connections you make at these events are just as valuable as the information that's delivered from this stage. So I hope you've made many good connections, just as I have, and I'm sure they will stand you in good value as you go forward. So the real work now begins as you synthesize the guidance and insight you gleaned from today's great panel discussions, great talks, and you create your own blueprint for global success to action. A ton of opportunity awaits us outside our borders. Good luck.